susceptible people, what to believe, how to believe it. They're entitled to different things, whether it's minimum wage increases, whether it's free education, whether it's free access to healthcare, whatever it is. They're the ones kind of pushing that onto my generation, and it's a very susceptible belief. And so I kind of detail that throughout the book. I talk about how culture and universities and help metastasize that belief, and how it really takes a hold of my generation, but it's passed down from another.
I have to ask this: where did "Dumb Politics" come from? I mean, when did you think that was a good title?
It's funny. I'm glad you asked that. I would do political writing a little bit, and I kind of condensed some of that throughout the last year, and used some of that in my book. And I was actually talking about Beto O'Rourke, who everybody's very familiar with, gave us quite a scare here in Texas. He had a quote, and I put that quote in my book. And this was before he even announced for his Senate run. This is before people even knew who Beto was. I barely even knew who he was. But he had a quote, and his quote was, it was about the border wall. He thinks a border wall is a, quote, racist reaction to a racist myth. Unquote. And I remember in my writing, I just said that's dumb politics. That is simply dumb politics. You're pandering to emotion, not to fact. You're trying to grab a hold of people's votes by using that pandering. And my idea was that's just complete dumb politics. I think dumb politics really is the rhetoric and policies that completely ignore third party and even second party consequences. So that's what really inspired me for the title of the book. I thought of the idea for the cover of the book. It's just broken ideas that unfortunately a lot of people don't see.
Well, you answered my other question, because I love the cover, but I was trying to figure out the broken light bulb.
Yeah.
broken ideas.
Absolutely. Broken ideas that people attach themselves to, and unfortunately that gains support. That's kind of where I was going for that.
You made one other comment that I saw in some of your press work, and you said that there were only, and I can't remember the number of how many states border, that would be bordering Mexico, and why are all of these other states jumping in on the bandwagon?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm in Texas. I have a very strong opinion about the border and border security, considering that Texas shares 1,200 miles of the 1,900 miles of the border with Mexico. So I find it a little hypocritical and hard to listen to when some senator or congressman from Vermont or New Hampshire wants to lecture us about how immoral a border wall is, border security is. I wish Texas had a little more say in how we protect our borders, considering we share the vast majority of it.
Mm-hmm.
But unfortunately, that's not how the system works. But it's very hard to hear other people preach to us about how we need to be a little more tolerant when they're living in those northern states.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. That is interesting. There are different parts in your book that you address in different areas. I noticed you said something about the name calling, and well, we've already talked a little bit, but you said the economics also play in. I really can't wait to read your book. Tell us a little bit about those two topics.
The economics, I graduated as an economics major, so there's no coincidence that chapter is the longest chapter in my book. I believe economics really is something that's misguided, especially among my generation. I think they use, of course, pandering to feelings. I'll give an example. Using terms such as a living wage, as if the opposite was a death wage, as if we don't support a living wage, people are going to die, which is not true. We live in a country where those in poverty will probably have a gaming console, probably have a big flat screen TV, multiple TVs in the house, and where, I don't want to misstate the statistic, but it's well over 90% have never said they've gone hungry. So the economics portion of my book is something that I really dive deep into, because that's really where my passion is. That's where my interest is. And I think that's where most people are misguided, is on the economic foundations. And unfortunately, it's starting to trickle into the conservative party. I think we're becoming less fiscally responsible. We talk about tax cuts. Tax cuts are great, but it's no good if you have a tax cut when it means more government spending. So I kind of detail those topics in the book. And the name calling one was kind of a fun chapter for me, because I think we're in a society now that loves to character assassinate. So even the smallest joke could label you as a racist, sexist, homophobe, whatever it is. I think, we've lost we killed the word stereotype. A lot of people use stereotypes, especially in our culture today. They use them as the butts of jokes. And, I think you can stereotype without being sexist or racist. I know that I got a lot of flack on this chapter, but I think we've completely lost that. We've become two snowflakes on the issue. And so that was a fun chapter for me to write.
Well, I like I say, I'm enjoying every bit of this, and I cannot wait to get my hands on your book. But we're getting ready to go to a break. Okay. I want to ask you one quick thing. If someone came up to you and asked you, what one word would you use that would change America? What would you say that would be?
Ooh, that's a good question. One word. I could go with the cliche and say united. I don't think we're ever going to be united, but I will say individualism for sure. I think individualism is something that will help change us. Individualism is a thought that you can do things to better yourself, and it's people think that's selfish in nature, but I think it comes serving yourself to help yourself, to not only help yourself but help your family, help your community, and help those around you. Because when you serve yourself, you can better serve those other people. Similar to, yeah.
Well, thank you. We're going to have to take a break right now, and we look forward to coming back and talking to Tanner Roberts.
Thank you.
What would you do if you found out everyone on the town council were thieves and murderers? That's what happened in Bandera, Texas in 1873. John Cruder was the marshal, yet he needed to operate outside the law in order to balance the scales of justice. He is the Midnight Marauder. You can find his books on Amazon.com and TopWesterns.com in paperback, digital, and audio. I'm Roy Clinton, and I hope you'll read The Midnight Marauder.
Indie Lector is a store for serious readers and indie authors. Find great talent at indielector.store and save money on books with their book club. A portion of the proceeds helps get books into schools and libraries in need. Find a great book to read by an indie author at indielector.store. Welcome back to Indie Beacon Radio. Don't forget to like us, follow us, or subscribe to one of our many channels. Now, here is your host for today's show.
This is Charlotte Canyon, and we're speaking with Tanner Roberts. Tanner, I'm going to go a little bit different direction because we didn't find out a little bit about you. Now, you're married. Do you have any children?
I do have a daughter. She is 22 years old. Actually, tomorrow, or 2 days, I'm sorry. She's about to be 2 years old, so can't wait for that. And she's a handful. But I am, I'm not married, but I do have that daughter, and she means the world to me. That's actually who I dedicated this book to.
Oh, very, very good. And also, you have some other passions. You're into music. You write music?
Yeah, a little bit of both. I write, I play. There's always an instrument I'm trying to learn. I think that's good for anybody to try to learn something, pick up something and learn it. So I've got, actually the room above me is a band room. So I've got my drums, my piano, my guitars, my bass, and all that. So that's a good passion for me because it separates me from everything political. And I think you need that good balance to from going furious to being in a state of relaxation, and that's what music does for me.
Yeah, well, I'm a singer as well, so that's why I related to your music. So you have an outlet, because I write, but I wanted to relate to something else. I have 20 grandchildren, and most of them are millennials. So everything you're talking about, I can totally see in one or more or all of them.
Right.
And, you know, at some point. And, you know, some of them have your viewpoint to a degree, but then I have some that are so far out there. And what can we do in America to make people not believe everything they hear?
You know, it's unfortunate. There's that old adage, how does it go? You're young conservative, or you're young and liberal. If you have a heart, you're old conservative. If you have a brain, meaning the older you get, the more conservative you get. Unfortunately, I don't think that's as true with this generation, or it's going to be a lot slower with this generation. A couple of reasons. One being the fact that I stated earlier, more kids are still living at home with their parents. They're not as independent anymore. They're getting married later in life. They're kind of there's more of a gig economy, not as much stabilization. They're buying houses later. I think those kind of things are contributing them to kind of holding on to the liberal beliefs until they can actually see the world how it is, how it affects their family, how it affects their income, how it affects their community. And unfortunately, I think that process itself is not going to work. I think more people need to voice their opinions if they are conservative and if they are young. I know it comes with a lot of backlash. I know it comes with a target on your back. That's, you know, I'm wearing all black to my book release party because I just signed the death of any kind of career after this. But I just don't think you should be scared. And I think politicians really need to gear their messages a little more to our generation. I know we don't turn out to vote as much, but I do know we do have a lot of influence, especially when it comes to culture. So I think they need to just redirect that a little bit more. I know we're not the biggest donors either, but those kind of things we need to take into account for. You know, you just saw Texas almost turn blue. And if Texas can do it, any state can do it. And that was a very scary thought. It was a lot more closer than I thought, that Senate race between Senator Cruz and Beto. But I think that part of that is the younger generation in Texas, and Beto really getting a hold of those voters.
And you think it was us seniors that kind of pulled it through?
Yeah, I think, you know, setting that up, seniors being a little more content. You know, I'll give the Liberal Party this. They are never complacent, ever. And I think conservatives get a little too complacent. The minute you get complacent, there's a second that you can lose a state like Texas to the Democratic Party. So I think there just needs to be a little more activism on our side, maybe from the younger generation too, on the conservative side, and really just prevent from those things kind of happening. I also think, real quickly, that Texas is being influenced by a couple different things. One is the young voter turnout. Two is immigration, bringing those people in, giving them amnesty, and what they're giving is actually votes. And people moving from California and bringing their ideals to Texas or from other states and bringing their liberal viewpoints that really can alter the demographic of the state.
Oh, most definitely. Yeah, I totally agree. I want to ask again, you mentioned your music room was upstairs. Have you thought about writing a song that's politically tied to your Dumb Politics book?
I mean, I thought about it, but, you know, like you and I were talking about, we kind of like to separate that a little bit. You know, I start writing, and I'll start writing a very angry metal song, and next thing you know, I've got a Metallica song that's you know, screaming in the mic. No, I mean, I'm no singer. I just really write guitar, and sometimes I'll write lyrics, but sometimes I'll put little political innuendos in there, but not too much. I try to separate those two.
Well, we have a grandson that plays guitar, and one of Brady McCool, he wrote a song, and it's called "Texas Should Secede from the Union." And I thought Willie needs to sing that.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's a very popular movement here.
Yeah, I think because of the techno world and everything faster, there's why you millennials, and I'm not speaking specifically to you, but why the millennials want everything to go so fast. They don't seem to have the patience to, and not particularly you, but a lot of the millennials believe everything that they hear.
Yeah, no, and to your point, they want everything to go so fast. I completely agree with that. I actually am pretty susceptible to that sometimes too. I don't like bashing technology. I know a lot of people bash technology, how we're too addicted to phones, to internet, blah, blah, blah. But I think it's actually been a very convenience for our life. It's been a great innovation for us. I think that's part of the capitalist system, is bringing on those kind of innovations. But I will say, with any innovation like that comes abuse and misuse. And I also will say that, one of, I do a lot of speaking events, and I do political things, and some politicians come up to us and say, we don't really know how to capture the millennial vote, because everything that we stand for is really what they disagree with. And one of the things I'd say, well, ask a millennial who doesn't think they should get a raise today. Ask one who doesn't think they should get a promotion. Ask a millennial graduate straight out of college who doesn't want to be a manager in 2 years. And the only way that they're going to get prosperous like that and move up is through conservative economics. Government's not going to make you prosperous. Only yourself can. And we can make policies that pave a way to better yourself.
Yeah. Well, Tanner, it has been a pleasure speaking with you, and I know that all of our listeners are going to run out and get your book. If you want to plug your book, tell us where they can get your book and the title of it again.
Absolutely. So my book is out January 15th, Dumb Politics, The Political Rhetoric and Blissful Ignorance of a Generation. Again, January 15th, you can get it on Amazon. You can get it on Barnes & Nobles. It's also on audiobook. And so, that's a short time away. So you can also pre-order it on Amazon right now, too.
Very good. Okay, this is Charlotte Kenyon, and I have one thought for you. A rose is like a book. You can't know its beauty until you look at it. And a book is like a rose. You won't know its full beauty until you open it. This is Charlotte saying bye.
The Best of Eve, Recipes from Around the World. This was written by Eve, who was born in Holland and lived in South Africa and eventually came to Texas. This is no ordinary recipe book. This has herbs and spices and liqueurs and has a short story about Eve. The Best of Eve can be purchased on Amazon, and it is written by Helen Monday.
The Holy Spirit is gifting our children and grandchildren, and they are naturally able to show God's power to the world. Amazon bestseller Anne Lynn Noble and her granddaughter Carlisle capture insights and learnings of growing spiritually through the pages of Glow and Grow in the Grace of God. This inspirational novel provides perspectives on biblical truth from a young believer and her grandmother exploring spirituality. Rekindle that childlike faith with Glow and Grow in the Grace of God. Available now on Amazon and at AnneLynnNobleAuthor.com.
Welcome back to Indie Beacon Radio. Don't forget to like us, follow us, or subscribe to one of our many channels. Now, here is your host for today's show.
What would you do if you had to put your life on hold to parent your parents? You have to laugh to keep from crying. How to Parent Your Parents is a must-read book full of antidotes and practical advice to help parenting your parents. Author Charlotte Kenyon provides insights to help prepare anyone facing the challenges of caring for elderly parents. Check out our website at www.howtoparentyourparents.net.
I am Grace Allison Blair, an award-winning author, motivational speaker, and modern mystic. I have combined spiritual and psychological principles in my nonfiction self-help books under Grace Allison and fiction books under Grace Blair. Go to modernisticmedia.com to find Do You Have a Dream? 5 Keys to Realize Your Dream, and my novel, Einstein's Compass, a YA time traveler adventure.
What started as a love letter to her son has become an international love letter for all parents to their children. Now you can read acclaimed author Shanalee Charbonneau's story to your children. When her son was very sick, she calmed him by singing her own song to him. She turned that song into the book, My Mama Loves Me, I'm Her Little Boy. She wrote 3 more magical books for all parents and kids 6 and under. Available at Indie Lector, Amazon, and all local and national outlets.
Thank you for listening to Indie Beacon Radio, where creative souls can find help in marketing their creations. To learn more about Indie Beacon services, to be a guest on the show, or to advertise on our show, please visit our website at indiebeacon.com.